You have data everywhere, but is it working together? Meet Curator, the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine. Curator unifies data from all corners of your dealership to transform marketing, sales, and customer interactions. See it today at gubagoo.com.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. I'm Hannah Lutz in Detroit, in for Jamie Butters, who's on assignment.
And I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, U.S. automakers want preferential tariffs for Canada and Mexico over the U.K. Japan's auto industry asks for emergency stimulus and a tariff breakthrough. And Mercedes doubles down on its footprint around Atlanta. Plus, Hyundai Motor America COO Claudia Marquez talks about her new role and her unlikely journey in the auto industry.
I needed to find a nice man in even better reach because that would have meant I didn't have to work. So I'm working. You cannot.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry.
The Trump administration's latest concession on automotive tariffs, giving preferential treatment to the United Kingdom, has created a divide in the global auto industry. UK auto executives praised the move, but their American counterparts have expressed dismay. Chris Fuel is CEO of the Chrysler and Alfa Romeo brands at Stellantis.
So many of us have both assembly plants as well as supply bases that are in those regions. And right now, the UK has more favorable trade terms than Canada and Mexico do.
Fuel was speaking Tuesday during a keynote interview at the Automotive News Leading Women Conference. The Detroit Three and the trade groups that represent them are lobbying the White House to change trade terms with Canada and Mexico. The Trump administration is seeking deals with U.S. trading partners, including major auto exporters such as Japan and the European Union. Officials said the UK framework could serve as a template for other countries.
As those negotiations play out in North America and overseas, Japan's automotive industry is banking on a diplomatic breakthrough to lift U.S. tariffs on imported vehicles and auto components. Automakers are petitioning the Tokyo government to consider emergency stimulus measures for the Japanese economy. After a U.S. deal with the U.K. and a temporary abatement with China, Japan's auto industry lobby said it will continue to push the government in Tokyo for similar relief. A next round of negotiations between the U.S. and Japan is expected to start as early as Friday in Washington, according to Japan's Yomiuri newspaper. In the meantime, the country's automakers, such as Toyota, Honda, and Nissan, are still wringing their hands about how to respond to tariffs.
German luxury automaker Mercedes-Benz is doubling down on Metro Atlanta, the home of its U.S. headquarters. Mercedes says it will locate its North American headquarters in Georgia's capital region, move 500 jobs there, and open a multi-million-dollar R&D center. The move will make Mercedes' Atlanta corporate workforce 2/3 larger than it is now. It comes as the automaker slashes costs globally in response to slowing sales in key markets, including China and Europe. A Mercedes spokesperson says about 1/3 of the 500 jobs relocated to Atlanta are tech-related and will move from offices in Michigan and California.
And the former CEO of DMS provider Reynolds & Reynolds is suing the company. Tommy Barris said the company concocted reasons to fire him to avoid paying him. Current president Chris Walsh was named acting CEO on Wednesday. Barris's attorneys claim breach of contract, tortious interference, and wrongful termination in a $300 million lawsuit against Reynolds. The suit claims the company manufactured internal disputes to provide a reason to break Barris's 10-year employment contract that began in 2020. Barris alleges he was fired for inappropriate conduct that occurred nearly 4 years ago. And those are today's headlines. So, Hannah, what are your thoughts on U.S. automakers wanting preferential tariffs on Canada and Mexico? Wouldn't that make more sense for the industry instead of the UK?
Yeah, it does make sense. Under USMCA, North America had levels of free trade. So they were used to preferential treatment for the neighbors of the U.S., Canada and Mexico. I think seeing the 10% tariff rate for 100,000 UK vehicle imports came as a surprise to U.S. automakers who are reliant on Canada and Mexico. So many do think that the UK framework will be a template for other deals. So we could see something change in the tariff rate for other countries. We'll have to wait and see.
Gotcha. Coming up, Hyundai Motors COO Claudia Marquez talks about her rise in the auto industry and her leadership strategy in 2025. That's next on Daily Drive.
Your dealership has no shortage of customer information. But when that data is conflicting, messy, and spread across a multitude of platforms, it's impossible to activate properly. As the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine, Curator enriches and unifies your customer data across platforms, like your CRM, your DMS, your website, and even your marketing efforts. It then injects that information back into your most vital systems to provide a single view of each customer and equip your sales team with the information they need to close a deal. When one of the largest volume Subaru dealers in the country wanted to tap into its data goldmine, they turned to Curator. In just 4 months, Huberger Subaru experienced a 55% higher closing ratio and a return of 15 times their investment. Want to see it for yourself? Check out the case study at gubagoo.com/curator. That's GUBAGOO.com/curator.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Hannah Lutz with Kellen Walker. Claudia Marquez became Chief Operating Officer of Hyundai Motor America in January. It was part of the leadership shakeup that happened when the automaker promoted Jose Munoz to global CEO. Marquez says her journey through the leadership ranks wasn't one she expected when she started in the auto industry. She spoke with Automotive News Senior Vice President of Editorial, Chrissy Taylor, in a keynote interview at our Leading Women conference this week. Here's a piece of their conversation.
Claudia, thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on being one of our 100 leading women. We're so glad you could be with us here today to share your wisdom. You've had such a dynamic global career, but before we dive into your current leadership, let's spend a little bit of time back at the beginning. This wasn't exactly planned for you, so what initially drew you to the automotive industry?
That's a good one to start.
Yeah.
And thank you for the question, because I think a lot of the leader I am today had to do with the start. So first of all, I was born and raised in Mexico in a generation where women didn't work. So I was never educated to go to college. I was educated to understand something, and then, as I say, ideally to find a nice man, and even better, rich, because that would have meant I didn't have to work. So I'm working. You cannot. Don't tell this to my husband, please, because I still love him. Anyway, I also was, I went to school and college in a completely bilingual condition. It was German. It was for different stories that one day I will tell you, but the point is that I did all my school and college in German. When I finished, and I didn't have anything to do, by then I have never worked in my life because, of course, that we didn't do. One day, I was bored. I was literally bored. That's the reason I started working. And my dad, when I asked him whether he will allow me to work, and he said, no. He said, why not? And he didn't understand why I wanted to do this. Anyway, long story short, I told him, hey, let me try. The worst thing that can happen is that I resign, which was probably what he was expecting. Very nice man, by the way, my dad. But it was like that in my timings in Mexico. So anyway, I wanted to work for a German company, of course, to try to use all of that. I did. I did actually for 3 years. I started working for BASF, the chemical company. I was an executive assistant, which my father hated because I was going to serve coffees, which is okay as well. And I did. I started doing this job. The first week, I understand, first of all, that I love my freedom. I was independent suddenly. I made my money. I liked to dress up. And I felt important at this position. So I worked for this company, for this very important company, actually 3 years. In the meantime, I did find the guy, and I did get married to the guy still today, after 31 years now. You cannot have everything in life, right? Talking about the money and the guy. Please don't tell him that.
Don't worry, it's not being recorded.
Anyway, long story short, one day I'm telling Alex, like, hey, I'm bored. I want to do something different. Plastics was not necessarily very attractive. Long story short, he used to work for the banking industry, and he told me, hey, I read today that BMW is starting operations in Mexico. And of course, they will hire many people, and ideally people that are also fluent in German.
Okay.
So I sent my CV, I got an interview, and I got the job. That was in October 1995. I started as an assistant to the sales and marketing area manager for Central America. So my next 2 years, I'm continuing an assistant. And I worked for them 17 years. At some point in time, I worked in Mexico, for Latin America, in the UK, in Germany, for Land Rover, for BMW, for Mini, for Rover cars. And it was up and up and up. And I think it was just because I was not supposed to work. So I never compromised myself on what I had to do or say or not, because for me it was always a short term. I decided to speak out and fight for what I think it was right, and apparently that helped me.
And it worked, right?
Apparently, yes. At least in my 17 years, I left BMW in 2012 as a head of marketing, sales, and D&D. I was proud of this position, which I thought it was going to be my last. And I was very proud because I was the first non-German expat to be granted that level. Once I did that, it's like, that's it. I work way more than what I was supposed to do. But anyway, apparently I didn't. At some point in time, I wanted to go to volume market, and I want to also prove myself as a woman with sometimes these conditions that we're talking and listening today. I thought that potentially my value was to be the cultural connection between BMW dealers and my German colleagues and friends. So I was right in the middle. So I just wanted to understand what will happen if I try, what will happen if I go to volume. So one day I decided that I didn't have anything to lose, and Nissan knocked at my door. Aside of being a very complicated decision, one that actually was the final one for me to do that. It was my first regional position. I was responsible for marketing communications, product pricing, incentives from Mexico and Latin America. I decided to take that jump without knowing whether it was going to work or not, but without doubt, with all the intention to make it work. I did work for them 3 years, and 10 years ago, I came for the first time to the US as Senior Director for Infinity, sales operations, distribution, and everything related to that. I did that for 3 years, and then in 2018, I got my first vice president position, which I thought, now this is it. Becoming a VP in the US as a Mexican, as a woman, is not a walk in the park. I did that for 2 years, and then I left them. I got this invitation from Jose Munoz to join him at Hyundai, which I accepted gladly. I did 2 years of CEO in Mexico, then I did 3 years as CEO for Genesis for North America, and now in January I started this new job, and now it's 30 years.
Now here you are, all because you weren't supposed to work. It's very impressive, and obviously you've worked at a lot of different brands and a lot of different roles. Are there any leadership principles that you've carried from place to place that's helped drive your success?
I think when I was a little bit more aware, because my jobs or my previous experiences in Germany and the UK, I was very young. But I think my first one where I thought I need to understand and decide what am I going to do was when I came to the US. It was the US, the most important market, not an easy play at all. This position was created when I arrived. No one was going to be happy that I was there. Why? A Mexican doing operations in the US when she has never been here. And of course, culturally, we are very different. So I decided, one, to stay myself. Is where I feel the most comfortable, even if I can be different.
Yeah.
But something that I was going to do was, of course, to embrace, respect, learn culture, and then adapt to them.
Yeah.
to everyone. And in the end, I was the one that was coming here. And I thought that at some point in time with this, we will align, and we did. Embracing, respecting people. We are so different in so different conditions in markets where there is regulations, economics, so many things that every time I have taken a new job in the same or a different company or in a different market, I just decide to listen, understand before I act.
Yeah, it's very smart. And while adapting, but also maintaining your authenticity. It's great. Okay, so leadership at the executive level isn't just about numbers. It's about people. That's been kind of a theme today in terms of how do we build teams and mentor. Let's talk about your leadership philosophy and some of the lessons that guide you. Speaking of authenticity and speaking from the heart, can you share a leadership moment when authenticity helped you navigate a challenging decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think the higher you get, the more important is everything related to people. So let me go back. I was sharing 10 years ago when I arrived to the US. And I mean, I was in Infinity, this new job. I don't know anyone. At some point in time, me responsible for product and pricing, I wanted to reprice a vehicle, which I'm sure that everyone that has to do something with that, we know that we never reposition prices, right? Yeah. Never. Yeah. So of course I tried, and of course everyone next to me was telling me this is not going to be accepted. I tried within my team, with the sales organization, just to try to pencil it before exploring possibilities with my boss. My direct boss, that by the way happens to be my direct boss today again, and I love him to death, Randy. He told me, Claudia, if you think this is going to be realistic, let's make a shot. So then I went to the boss of all of us, Jose, and I tried again, and at some point in time he told me, I mean, if you can make it pencil, bring it. Because I said, I don't want to work for nothing. I mean, at least tell me I have a chance, and then I will do it. But if the answer is going to be no as a start, why do I lose my time, right? And he said to me, depending on what you bring. So once it was approved, the capacity of the production wasn't there. So I had to go to Japan to try to convince, back then, the chief performance officer to open a production line or reopen a production line for trying to do that. I could have said no probably the second or third week. It's too much. But I did, and I was convinced that we could, and of course I was afraid. I thought, I mean, if I fail this one, I'm going to be burned out and no one is going to like me anymore. But I was very convinced that it was going to be a positive result, and I tried and I succeeded. And that made that at least Infinity, not Nissan, everyone in the team suddenly is like, okay. You pass the test.
Passed your test.
Yes.
You persevered. That's great.
Yes.
Okay, so on Melissa's word chart, empathy and collaboration were very big words that everybody felt were keys to strong leadership. You emphasize empathy and collaboration. Can you share a moment when those values helped shape the decision?
I think one of the best things you can do when you are guiding teams, and not only that, even with your peers or with your bosses, is to be empathic. Yeah. I constantly try to put myself in the shoes of whomever we're talking or discussing, first as a person, and then, of course, related to work, and put that in context. I try to make sure that we all together take decisions. I think that offers respect. Mm-hmm. Again, empathy, which we just said. And very important as well, it creates ownership and accountability. Yeah. Once we, as a team, make a decision, then you buy in. And then, as I was hearing also, Linda in the morning. And then once you have the plan, it's about execution. Yeah. I like to stay very down to earth. Again, I'm Mexican, I hug everyone. I like to be very approachable. I think the higher you get, the more complicated it gets to actually understand what is happening. Yeah. So I try to stay on the field too.
Hyundai Motor America COO Claudia Marquez spoke with our own Chrissy Taylor at the Automotive News Leading Women Conference this week in Dearborn, Michigan. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Hannah Letts, in for Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer, as well as our own John Irwin, Hans Greimer, Urvash Kakaria, and Riley Hodder for their reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on automotive leadership, tariffs, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com.
Come back tomorrow for a conversation with Tom Osherwitz of Protective Asset Protection about how state attorneys general might pick up the slack from the FTC and the CFPB when it comes to auto lending practices and consumer protection.
Some people have called the CFPB now a zombie administration. While that is not officially dead, it's going to be really quiet for the next 4 years. Does that mean you can take a break, relax, and not think about compliance? I don't think so.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoyed the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.